Welcome back to Rocket Talk. It is episode 20. Luke is actually away right now because he hates our guts. And taking his place today is our friend from our old Nerdmageddon show, Coralie Hertzog. And she is going to kind of give a little bit of an introduction to herself and her interests. And Corie, go ahead and say hi and tell us what you're up to right now.
Hey, everybody. So, I'm Corie. I am still over at Nerdmageddon because I have not graduated college yet, and I'm really just kind of focusing on my weeb obsession. My Hero Academia has been the latest one. I had a 4-day binge. I did not talk to anybody, in person, and all I did was watch the anime and read the manga, and if you also read the manga, I feel your pain.
So, no, that sounds awesome. What other forms of nerd media are you consuming?
So I've recently just bought the BioShock games for my Switch.
That's awesome. I did the same. That's awesome.
I'm still trying to get used to the controls. I've never played the games before, and they make me really dizzy. Because you can get, it spins around really quickly if you're not careful. Mm-hmm. And so that just, it makes me so dizzy. It's funny.
My trouble is both the right hand and the left hand have multiple weapons, and I'm still getting used to switching them in mid-battle to the weapon that I want them to. So I've been killed by Big Daddy a couple of times switching weapons. Yeah,
it's a trip, and then once I'm feeling a little nauseous, I switch over to Animal Crossing and pretend that I have friends.
Oof.
Big oof.
Too real. It's the world that we all want to live in anyway.
Yeah. And then I'm also still in my Rick Riordan journey. I'm going through and reading every series by mythology. So I finally hit the third in the Greek mythology section, so we're almost done.
If I could read, I would definitely understand how important that is.
Yeah, and then I guess one more really, really important question. What is your Harry Potter house?
I almost said Hogwarts.
Hogwarts, yeah, that's a good house.
You've read the books, clearly.
Ravenclaw. I swear I'm smart sometimes.
Ravenclaw. And Johnny can attest to this as well. I am a Hufflepuff, but I've also been sorted into Ravenclaw, and I don't understand the connection at all. Johnny, you felt that on a personal level?
I was, as a kid and a young adult, I was Hufflepuff, and then I took it last week, and they said I was Ravenclaw, and I'm like, this thing is broken. I do not agree. I am not a Ravenclaw.
That sorting hat needs new batteries.
Nothing against Ravenclaws, but I'm not a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, just knowing you guys are definitely Hufflepuffs.
I would like to think so.
I would also like to think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You'd be the ones in the kitchen just eating bread.
Oh, absolutely.
No, that sounds so bland. That sounds so unappetizing.
Well, not just bread, but all food.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, absolutely.
Bread doesn't necessarily mean bread slices. It could be French toast or French bread.
I do like French toast.
I also do like French things.
I had French toast yesterday.
Yeah, we went to IHOP. It was awesome.
Didn't invite me. So rude.
Yeah. So with that, me, Johnny, and Corie, that's almost a complete Nerdmageddon crew.
Yeah, you've almost collected the entire set.
Yeah, Court. Our listeners do know. They remember Court. He's been on twice. He's also part of Nerdmageddon. We have a couple more buddies of ours that I won't dox them just yet. But yeah, it's close to the Nerdmageddon crew. And so, with that, we might as well just dive right into nerd news now. And so the first segment is, what are you digging right now, Johnny? And I understand you have a new music video that came out from one of your favorite artists.
Yeah, so an artist that's not very popular here in America, but definitely more popular in Canada. His name
so
is...
hipster.
Yeah, he's so big in Canada. But his name is Scott Hellman, and a few weeks ago he released a song called "Wait No More." And a lot of it was, I don't know exactly the inspiration, but the vibe I was getting was about, even though you're stuck inside, don't just wait around and do nothing. Try to take this time to appreciate, that you've got free time and do more than just sit inside, which is, a lot of what I do. So the music video came out just a few days ago, and everything is filmed in reverse. And so he had his own song playing in reverse and singing the lyrics backwards. So when everything he does is backwards, he's still singing the lyrics forwards, and it's really trippy, but it's so cool the way he does it. Like he breaks a guitar, but instead of breaking it, all the pieces are coming back together as he's slamming it against the fireplace, and he rubs paint on his face, but as he rubs it on, it goes away. And it's super cool and super trippy, and it's a good song and a really cool music video, and I'm all about it.
I watched it with you as well, and that was one of the artsier music videos I've seen from him, but also in general. I thought it was good imagery. I thought it was a really good, even though it was a small set, it still told a big story. And
yeah.
I enjoyed the song. You played it before, and I thought it was good.
Awesome.
I love that reverse effect when it's done well. It's just so soothing and satisfying. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I first saw it with Weird Al Yankovic when he was singing Amish Paradise. There was a
yes.
long... he took a walk kind of down, I guess, what that town's main street would be, and he was singing the songs, backwards but forwards. And they had a lot of people that would walk through in front of him and behind him and just kind of have a whole main street vibe to it, and he did it for quite a while, and it was really impressive. But a good music video. You guys should check it out. Go and I guess you should follow Scott Hellman. He's actually a really good artist. Johnny and I were, not he and I don't know Scott personally. I'm sure he's a cool guy. But Johnny and I were introduced to him when we went to Chicago and saw Walk Off the Earth for the first time, actually. Yeah, and he was 19 at the time. Yeah, but still, very good. Moving on to our next topic, we got Crash Bandicoot 4 was announced, and I'm going to sneeze. Never mind, I'm not going to. Yeah, so we had some very low-res images released, and we had... So I shared you guys a YouTube video that described it, and also this article. The Crash leaks came out, and the Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. I don't know if you've seen these images. If you guys have, tell me what you think, and are you guys excited for another Crash Bandicoot game, an original game, instead of just, remastered?
I'm looking forward to it for sure. I never really got into Crash Bandicoot before, but I mean all of my friends have, and I feel like it's something that I just narrowly missed because I was a Nintendork growing up, and so I didn't really have much access to Crash. But it is something that I do wish I got more into, and this might be a good introduction for me into the series. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's coming to the Switch, so I seem to have that same problem even in 2020.
Exactly. So it'll be coming to PS4 and Xbox One October 9th, 2020. Unfortunately, it's not coming to the Switch, or at least not yet. But it's got to come to the Switch. It's a really big title, and a lot of people have moved on to the Switch. And that's where I guess I think that's where the primary audience is right now. Is they'll be on the Switch.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I couldn't tell you that for certain.
I'm guessing not, because if they're gonna not put it on the Switch, I would guess that a lot of the people would be in the other two.
I mean, they must know something that we don't.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the screenshots were probably they were taken from a trailer or promo. They were they emerged on 4chan. They were originally spotted by Reset Era. So they do reveal some toys. They reveal a couple of skins you get for buying digitally. And they also show the release date, October 9th, 2020. Here's a description, just in case anyone missed it. Crash is relaxing and exploring his island in his time, 1998, when he finds a mysterious mask hidden away in a cave, Lani Loli. The mask is one of the quantum masks and apparently knows Aku Aku, Crash's mask friend. With the quantum masks returning and a quantum rift appearing near our heroes, they decide to bravely head through to different times and dimensions to stop whoever is responsible. So
I think it's such a cool concept.
Exactly, yeah. It looks great. It's very Crash-like, and I know I'm gonna buy it. I grew up with Crash Bandicoot, so I'm if it comes to Switch, I'll buy it. Unfortunately, if it doesn't, I don't have an Xbox One and I don't have a PS4.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's what Facebook Marketplace is for.
True. Yes, that would be a good place to go and get that. So, yep, game announcement. Looking forward to it. It's a leak though, but I mean, honestly, leaks don't mean anything anymore because game developers themselves leak information for some publicity. So maybe it was a case of that. Yeah, but also in game news, Johnny, you'll be able to spearhead this one. We got a trailer and announcement for a new Kingdom Hearts game, Melody of Memory. So go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, so this game looks like it's a rhythm game, and it's based on Kingdom Hearts, and it's got over 140 tracks, I believe is what it said, from the series. Which just watching the trailer and hearing some of the songs in it just gave me goosebumps because it reminded me of so many of the good tracks, the amazing, fantastic tracks from the series, and I'm on the fence on whether I think I'm going to get it or not, just because I'm not a big rhythm game guy. But I do, like I said, I love the music. So it's really I don't know, I don't know what to expect. I'm hoping that it's very immersive and very, there's a lot more than what we've seen so far. But yeah, it looks like something that could be great. It's obviously not a mainline Kingdom Hearts game, but it is apparently a part of the story, even if it's a bit of a stretch to make it a part of the story. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not sure if it's coming to the Switch or not. I'll have to.
No, it's coming to the Switch, I think.
It is?
I
Okay.
think they said it was
That's
coming
good.
to Switch.
Well, I am. Yeah, it looks like it is. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'll want to know more about it as we get closer to the release. But yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence. What do you think, Corie?
I've never played Kingdom Hearts, but you've talked about it a lot since we've been friends, and I'm probably gonna get it. Even though I have no rhythm, I feel like a rhythm game would be really easy to kind of learn and get my toes in the water when it comes to Kingdom Hearts.
Absolutely.
Just because rhythm, you can kind of usually pick up a pattern, and once you kind of figure that out, it's a lot easier, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Johnny and I played a Legend of Zelda rhythm game. What was it called?
It was Cadence of Hyrule.
Cadence of Hyrule. And I mean, it was frustrating the first couple of levels, but then after that, it was actually pretty easy to pick up. So it is kind of easy to master because, I mean, they're never going to throw you in and hope you can swim and just drown you completely. They'll ease you into it.
Yeah, this is not band camp. They will help you.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I am wondering their strategy for releasing a rhythm game. But I mean, it's Disney, so they're known for their music. So it's honestly just a matter of time before they release one of these.
Well, there's a lot of fans of Kingdom Hearts that will just buy anything that has a Kingdom Hearts name on it.
True.
I'm not one of them, but it does definitely convince me to want to get. It is something that's making me a little bit on the fence. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure that there's a lot of diehard fans out there who are very excited about this. I'm not necessarily one of them, but that doesn't mean that it's not something to look forward to. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to yet another game announcement, and this actually comes from Pokemon Company. We kind of got a Pokemon Direct, and Johnny, again, you are the Pokemon guy here, so I'll let you take over. What'd you think?
I thought it was pretty disappointing. I thought that there was a lot of little announcements that I just did not care about. I think at this point, the only thing that I could really be excited about is that what I could actually expect to happen would be a sequel to Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee, which could be like a second generation Let's Go game for the Johto region. Because I'm not expecting anything new from Sword and Shield because we're getting the DLC coming up, and I don't think we're going to get anything else anytime soon. But as far as what did get announced, the first game was Pokemon Smile, and if you're ever having trouble finding a reason to brush your teeth, then then Pokemon Smile is the way to go. It's a game geared towards toddlers who need more push to brush their teeth, and so it's a very good teeth brushing Pokemon game for really young kids. Which, you know, that's not for me. That's not like the downfall, quote unquote downfall of the video, the Pokemon Presents video, because it's not aimed for me. So I get it.
Yeah.
In fact,
cute, though.
it is. It's very cute, and I think that it's something that like I'm glad they're doing, because, you know, no, there's really no harm in making something like this.
They have to cover all their demographics, and we just are not the demographic for this.
Yeah.
These couple of games.
I mean, speak for yourself, but
I think it's just gonna be really cute to get nerd parents to, you know, get their little babies into baby nerds.
Absolutely. I mean,
looking forward to that.
I love seeing, like, I have my own niece and nephew that it was partially my sister, but also partially me. We both got them into Pokemon, and seeing them learn about new Pokemon and like talking about, you know, evolution and all the like everything about Pokemon it's really exciting for me. So to see that happen with another group of young children that are learning just because they need to learn to brush their teeth, like that's one thing that could get them excited, because they'll be interacting with Pokemon every day, twice a day. So that, yeah, I think that was a great a wholesome way to bring in the video.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in my opinion, it kind of went downhill, because there are millions, and by that I mean dozens of Pokemon games that are not mainline games, that are just like thrown out there with Pokemon stamp on it. And Pokemon Cafe Mix was the next one that that was a lot like that. And it's basically a Pokemon puzzle game that's themed around a cafe that you're running, and I simply could not care less about this. What do you guys think?
I think it could have been interesting if they had done it differently.
Yeah, I think that maybe if they did it more, if it was more interactive and less. I mean, again, this might be something that's aimed towards younger kids, but I don't know, like, a lot of younger kids that would be all about this. I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know a lot of younger kids, but
well, it's a free game. It looks like a free game.
It does, yeah. It looks like a free game, but there's optional in-game purchases available. So that's, you know, parents are going to have to be watching their kids playing this game to make sure that they're not, you know, stealing mom and dad's credit card and buying those extra Pokemon.
If you've never played a Pokemon game before and you click on this, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what the world of Pokemon is like, you're going to be equally as disappointed in it as I was with Dr. Mario.
Oh, yes.
I'd never played Dr. Mario before. I was super excited. And then I pulled up the game, and it is just like a Tetris-like game, but with pills. Yeah. And it was stupid. So, Cafe Mix is not for us.
Again, it could have been very interesting. You know, there are cafe games that are fun.
Sure.
But this one, I feel like, is just, you're supposed to focus on, like, swirling the things around. Whereas in, like, others, they're more roleplay heavy. And those are fun because you actually get to interact and expand that world. Whereas this one is just very sedentary.
Yes. Agreed.
And then moving on to the next game, it was a new Pokemon Snap. This is the one that everybody kind of agreed was the biggest, the biggest reveal of the video, the Pokemon Presents video. Personally, I do not care. I didn't grow up with Pokemon Snap. When I played it with other people who were big fanboys about it, I always thought, oh, you take pictures of Pokemon, like, cool. Truthfully, I never understood the hype. I know that there is hype, and I acknowledge that. And I'm glad that people are getting what they want, but I'm not people. So,
it actually looks like a really nifty game I think it was on the 64, right?
Yeah.
I mean, depending on the size of the world and the amount of creatures that you can find, that does sound interesting for younger kids. And so I think if they have like an enormous Breath of the Wild immersive kind of game, that could be really, really cool. I'm not sure though from the trailer. I don't know how big the world is.
I would not imagine. No, what I'm getting from it is not Breath of the Wild scale whatsoever. This is more like you are on a tour and you're in a tour ship and you're on a track and you're like following. You've got a camera with you and you're just taking pictures like you're being guided on a tour guide, like in a Jeep or something, and you're just like taking pictures of Pokemon. You can throw them apples to like interact with them, and they interact with each other. And I mean, there's a lot of details that obviously have not been announced about this game, so I guess I'm speaking solely about the N64 version, but I am expecting a lot of that to transfer over to this new Switch version. It looks like a very, very basic, straightforward kind of game where you take pictures of Pokemon. And again, I don't know what all the hype is about, but I appreciate that at least that means that Pokemon is listening to people who are excited about it, even if it's not me, you know. I can't knock him for, you know, not tending to what I solely want, you know. I wish they would though, but
yeah. I think they could have done something similar to Animal Crossing, like New Horizons with that. I think that could have been a fun thing where you're just living on an island with a bunch of Pokemon and you get to be friends with the Pokemon.
That would be so fantastic.
That would have been more fun. I think that would be a more contemporary rendition of it. Because, yeah, old games are fun to remaster and to get for a new platform, new device, but you also want just something a little different, something that makes it just a little bit better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am hoping, like, we're in an age now with Nintendo where a lot of the popular IPs are getting kind of a new direction for where all the series are headed, like Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey. There's a lot of stuff that's happening that is completely brand new. Even Animal Crossing, while its direction isn't necessarily shifted, they're definitely going all in and giving people full agency on what they want in every sense. And so I'm really looking forward to Pokemon eventually breaking the mold, because they have not done that yet. I mean, I can tell you that, like, I have bought a game from all 8 generations, and I don't know how many more generations I have left in me of new games to buy without them, like, changing kind of the whole Pokemon method, until I just stop buying Pokemon games, you know? But who knows? I mean,
I can kind of understand, like, if their strategy is to be like, oh, it's a new generation for a new generation of Nintendo players. Like, I think that's kind of where they first started. I think that was kind of their idea. But now it really is just, okay, it's the same old thing. Let's expand it. You know, there's only so much, oh, it's a new Pokemon that's going to draw people in. And even then, evolutions seem to kind of be the same.
Yeah.
You see a lot of, you know, fire types also getting, like, a fighter type evolution later on.
Yep.
With, like, Score Bunny.
Yeah.
Poor Score Bunny. But I think that it would be interesting. It just feels like a more sit-down version of Pokemon Go, Pokemon Snap.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, I do appreciate that it's more casual. And so maybe this will be a game that not just gets people back into Pokemon Snap, but new fans into Pokemon Snap, and also new fans into Pokemon in general. So I definitely see a lot of good there. Like I said, this is definitely the highest point of the presentation, but just maybe not for me personally. But moving on, we have new information on Pokemon Go. There is new clothes to wear, and Victini is also I believe soon to be released Pokemon. It was a silhouette of Victini, but I know enough about my I know enough about my Pokemon silhouette to know that that's Victini. And then they're also releasing the ability to Mega Evolve your Pokemon in Pokemon Go. So that's something that's going to be really cool. I have not played Pokemon Go in like 3 years.
Same.
I was a huge fan for like a year and a half, almost 2 years when it came out. But I mean, ever since like 2017, I haven't played it much. And I'm glad that there's still, I mean, if they're making new stuff for it, there's obviously still an audience for it, and that's great. You know, we need to get out and do more things.
Well, they're not going to be able to go out very much because the 2020 like big event is going to be digital this year. Because
exactly.
Social distancing.
Yeah, and that is also a good addition to a good change to the game, that they can have that event that you can still do while you're at home. Because even though it is all about getting up and going. Right now, that's not possible for everybody. So I'm glad that they have kind of a new version of that for a special event, for Pokemon Go, the Pokemon Go Fest. So moving on, the next bit of information was a little bit of info about the recently released Isle of Armor DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield. And it was just more of a trailer and something to look forward to, which I appreciated because it was something that I got, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. And just a reminder that the Isle of Armor, while it has just released, the Part 2, the Crown Tundra, is going to come out later this fall. So it's kind of nice to have people... have Pokemon Company remind the players that there is still a part 2, so there's more to come. And there is also a Gigantamax battle. And if a million players defeat this Zeraora, I believe it said that they get the Zeraora. So I'm not going to do my part in fighting it, but I'll probably get it anyway because I've done enough of these competitions through things like Pokemon Go and other Nintendo-like things. And they say, if enough of you do this, then everybody gets it. And it's like, great, I'm going to do nothing and I'm going to get the reward anyway. So
sounds like you are the worst person to have for a group project.
You know what? Yeah. I'm kind of getting an A on this group project and not doing anything about it. So it says, if 1 million trainers defeat Zeraora in max raid battles, everybody can get a shiny Zeraora. And the challenge goes from June 17th to June 28th. So I'm hoping by June 29th, I'll have a shiny Zeraora in my party for nothing.
Fuck yeah. Awesome.
Or maybe they'll just turn around and be like, only the people who actually defeated it get the shiny.
Oh no!
Yikes! Oof.
That would upset me. Give me my free gift for no work at all. Along with that, they also announced that Pokemon Go would be getting the new costumes, like I said, from Pokemon Sword and Shield, but also Galarian Farfetch'd would also appear in Pokemon Go. So that's great. I love Galarian Farfetch'd because it evolves. The Cantonian Farfetch'd does not evolve, but the Galarian does into Sirfetch'd. And Sirfetch'd is a sweet boy and must be protected. So... Again, I don't play Pokemon Go, but if I did, I would be very excited about the Galarian Farfetch'd.
If I made a Pokemon joke, would be too far-fetched.
Oh. Okay, well, that's all we have for Corie today.
Yes, thank you for coming in, Corie. It was, you were on. So basically, it sounds like it's a really good time to be a young Pokemon fan.
Absolutely. And like I said, that just because there's things that may not be exciting for me, it doesn't mean that, it's very clear that they're at least listening to the fans in a general sense, because a lot of stuff that's on here, I guess more the Sword and Shield DLC as well as Pokemon Go news and new Pokemon Snap. Those are the three forms of content that seem to be a great response to what the fans really want. So it is nice going forward, and it looks like we're not even done with the Pokemon news, because a week from the day that this was released, another Pokemon video will be released on June 24th. So at the time of recording this, it'll be less than a week away. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that all of the quote-unquote bad news will, or less exciting news, has already been announced, and what's to come is the real big juicy drop of good Pokemon news that we're all looking for. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll talk about it next week. And so moving on, I did talk about the reminder about the Crown Tundra coming up later this fall, but the Isle of Armor Part 1 of the Pokemon Sword and Shield DLC did drop earlier this week, and I got a few hours of playtime into it, and I'm really liking it. It's a lot smaller than I expected, but then again, I don't really know what exactly I was expecting. It's a small island that, I thought, part of me thought was going to be a lot grander than it really was. It's not small. It's definitely, it's it's not. I don't know exactly how to explain it. It's not small, but it's smaller than I was expecting. And there's a lot of different kind of locations. There's caves. There's there's high mountains. There's grass. There's beach. There's a lot of different kinds of Pokemon that you can get, and it was really cool to have a new location that had distinct Pokemon that were not a part of the core game. And there's a little bit of a story mode that goes with it. You are a part of a dojo, a Pokemon dojo that wants to train you to become the best Pokemon master, basically. And you're given a sweet little Pokemon called Cub Fu, and
sounds cute.
He is very adorable. And
look that up.
he's a sweet little bean, and you have to train him to become bigger and better. And there's you have two paths to go down. You have the I believe it's called the Tower of Waters and the Tower of Darkness, and whichever one you decide to go will turn your Cub Fu, when he evolves, he'll turn into a different style of Ursafu, I think is what he was called. And so I chose the Tower of Waters because I prefer water-type Pokemon. So I haven't beaten the actual tower yet, but I did get him to level 60, and they said that they recommend your Cub Fu get to level 70 before you start fighting any of the 5 levels of the tower. So I've yet to fight even the first one because I'm still training my baby Cub Fu up to be the level 70. But from what it looks like, I am I'm having a lot of fun. You know, I'm excited to see exactly what Ursafu is like when Cub Fu evolves, and I'm excited to learn more about the two different kinds of styles of the Ursafu. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with it. Cub Fu is an adorable partner to have, and I love seeing him get new moves, and he's really cute and cuddly and must be protected at all costs.
Yeah, so if you guys...
Could this be the next... if this could be the next Pokemon that gets turned into a Build-A-Bear bear, please let me know, because I need it.
He is adorable, isn't he?
Yes.
So if you guys have played this or are in the middle of playing it, please let us know what you think about it as well. And then we're going to move on to our last bit of nerd news before our main topic of the day. And so F is for Family Season 4 is on Netflix right now. Johnny and I, we've watched, I think, 7 episodes of it so far?
I think
6 or 7 episodes. We just wanted to give a quick review of what we think about it so far. And right now I'm really loving the season.
Yeah, it's perfect that this season dropped on Father's Day weekend, because it's all about, and the main character is a dad, but this season in particular is all about his dad, and he comes into the show, and so it's really interesting to. I'm assuming they might have planned this for this drop on this weekend, but if they didn't, it was perfectly timed. And it's really interesting to see the relationship with him and a character that hasn't really been in the show at all, but still a character, one's own dad, that is obviously very, very important to the main character.
Exactly. So. And we'll try to not spoil too much about it, but just in case it accidentally slips out, a little bit of a spoiler alert. Yeah, and it is a lot more. It really stretches Frank, I think, to his emotional limits, and I think we see Frank on both ends of the spectrum of being a dad and his emotional intelligence, because we see him trying very hard to be a better father to his kids and a better husband to his wife, but then also trying to deal with all the emotional trauma he's had in his past. And I think they do a really, really good balance. Obviously, they have the main crew of his neighbors back for some comedic relief, but all of these characters, I think they're trying to really push these characters to the next stage of life, and I think they balance it really well. Yeah,
I do appreciate the fact that they made the character, Frank, the main character, it's portraying him a lot more as a son than it is as a father in this season.
Yes,
and I think that's something that's a new dynamic that we haven't seen before. And it's really interesting to see for the first few episodes, there was a lot of talk about Frank's own father and how there was a bad relationship. But then Frank's father comes into the picture, and he is the sweetest man on earth. And so I don't know about you, Connor, but I personally thought that there was a lot of some of the memories that Frank had might have been misconstrued, or maybe there was some kind of
there's a misunderstanding somewhere, or
maybe
he's
some
misremembering.
Misremembering some of the bad experiences as being a lot worse than they really were. And so some of that comes into light later, and what the truth is, whether Frank remembered things correctly or whether he was over exaggerating, or anywhere in the middle. But there was definitely a new dynamic that was pushed forward in this season, which I really appreciate.
Yes, I think all of the characters, every single one of them in this season, have a goal, and we're rooting for each and every single one of them. Even some of the neighbors have clear goals in mind to be reached by the end of the season, except for Goomer, because he's just being a creeper.
Yeah.
But some of his neighbors have goals, and Chauncey has his goal of trying to clean up his neighborhood, his district, and they don't. They do a good job of balancing it all without focusing too much on one character, not enough on other characters. But they all seem to so far be stepping in the correct direction and reaching their goals slowly but surely, and they're not making them all out to be assholes or completely incompetent. They're all making these characters, even the side characters, much deeper.
Absolutely. And you know what? And balancing,
and yes.
there is one last thing is I do like that there's kind of a realistic weight that Frank has from his father's return on his on his marriage. And it's coming out a lot. And there was during the Lamaze class, there's they go in, it focuses a lot on the pregnancy of Frank's soon to be fourth child, and the stress that has on a marriage. And so seeing Frank's father come back, and him dealing with the emotions of everything that he had as a child, is definitely putting a weight on his marriage. And I like to see that is a little bit, it is kind of realistic with how he is handling everything. So
yes,
I don't want to go into too many details about exactly what that looks like, but I'm liking the realism that's coming from a otherwise very quirky and odd TV show.
Yes, it's so far so good. The season 3 was not my favorite. I thought it was fantastic, but it wasn't my favorite, which just shows how strong the show is. So if you haven't seen it, really do check it out. I think it's great writing. And if you have seen it, please let us know what you guys think in the comments below. And speaking of dads, that actually helps us segue into our main topic of the day, which is a celebration of TV, movie, media dads for our Father's Day edition of Rocket Talk. We've given everyone a list of some of our favorite dads from our favorite movies and shows, and potentially books, but books are lame. And so we're kind of doing like a March Madness style tournament on who is the best dad.
So before we get started, the three of us are going to explain who our 6 contenders are. And so I'll go first, and then Corie, if you want to go after, and then Connor, you can follow. So my choices are Frank Reynolds from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Mufasa from, of course, The Lion King, Ned Stark from Game of Thrones, Jack Pearson from This Is Us, Joel from The Last of Us, and Bowser from Super Mario. And then Corie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, so my dads are Aizawa from My Hero, Luke from Gilmore Girls, Kerjack from Tarzan, Nigel Thornberry from The Wild Thornberries, Stu Pickles from Rugrats, and then Tenzin from Legend of Korra.
Okay, and Connor?
So my daddies are Red Foreman from That 70s Show, Homer Simpson from The Simpsons, Marlin from Finding Nemo, Uncle Phil from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Chief Hakoda from Avatar The Last Airbender, and it was going to be Daniel Hillard from Mrs. Doubtfire, but I've actually changed it to Sean Maguire from Good Will Hunting. And not all of these are fathers, but some of them are father figures, which in our opinion still counts.
Of course. And so how this will go is we'll pit any two of these fathers from media against each other, and and basically we'll vote and see who deserves to go on to the next round, and it's going to be bracket tournament style. And so for the first round, it's going to be Frank Reynolds against Aizawa to go against Red Foreman, and then it's Homer Simpson against Mufasa. Luke from Gilmore Girls against Marlon, Ned Stark against Kerchak, Chief Hakoda against Joel from Last of Us, Jack Pearson against Nigel Thornberry to then go against Uncle Phil, Stu Pickles against Sean Maguire, and then Bowser against Tenzin. So how it will work is if any two of us have a stake in the game, I guess I'll say, then the third person will be the deciding factor. And if any one of us has two that are competing, two of our own competing against each other, the remaining two co-hosts will decide if they agree, then that the person that they agree on, the father that they agree on, will move on. If they disagree, then the person representing those dads will have to decide between their own. So,
and you're going to notice Bowser is a villain, but even though he's evil, he's still technically a father, and the argument itself is he a good father, not is he necessarily a good person.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So
you could be a horrible person, but a great father.
Exactly.
So first, due to dice rolls, there are Corie and I lost both of them, so we have one extra round that we have to go through where Connor made his bye, so he got to go ahead. So for the first round, it's going to be Frank Reynolds against Aizawa. And I'll go first, and then Corie, if you want to explain Aizawa.
Yeah.
So Frank Reynolds is the kind of dad that is so close with his children that he is on a first name basis with his children. Or by his children. Dee and Dennis Reynolds. And one might watch the show and not even know for many seasons in a row that Frank is their father because of the way that they all talk to each other. But you know what? To me, I see that as a win in fatherhood. Sure, he left them for many years. And sure, he's an alcoholic and he's got a lot of problems with his money and his anger and violence, but you know what? He's a good father because he's got such a close relationship with Dee and Dennis that they call him Frank. They don't even need to call him Dad. He's such a bro that they call him Frank. And to me, I would think that it would be a sin to vote against Danny DeVito. I mean, how can you vote against Danny freaking DeVito? That's my case. That's my case.
All right, Corie, what do you got?
All right. So Aizawa, he is a teacher in My Hero Academia. He's the homeroom teacher for Class 1A. But not only has he adopted those essentially 20 kids who are constantly getting in trouble, he also took on another student and personally taught him how to use his quirk to his advantage and not seem like a villain with it because he had brainwashing abilities. But he also essentially adopted this little girl named Aerie who never knew love. She was used for science experiments, and he's the only one who can get her to calm down. He pretty much adopted this child because he's like, well, guess I'm a dad now. He actually has the nickname of Dadzawa in the fandom. He is a father. He is a father figure.
So Connor, you've heard both of our cases. Who do you think deserves the next spot to go against Red Foreman? Is it Frank Reynolds or Aizawa?
Well, this one is tough. Because I know neither of these characters. However, I think based on arguments alone, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go with Aizawa.
Oh, come on. Okay, so this is still a part of round one, but Aizawa is continuing on to fight against Red Foreman. So now, Corie, you've talked about Aizawa. And now, Connor, if you want to talk about Red Foreman, and I, Johnny, will be the deciding factor between Red Foreman and Aizawa.
Red Foreman is an actual dad to Eric Foreman, but then he eventually becomes a father figure to Stephen Hyde because he does not have a good home life. He moves in with the Foremans, and Red Foreman is a bit of a hard ass, but all of his anger is righteous anger. Being hard on the people he loves is just his way of believing he's raising them to make sure they're the best people that they can be in life. Now, he does have his catchphrase of foot in people's asses, but it's all out of love, and he genuinely has good character growth. He eventually eases up on them, and he is just trying to make sure that these people, when they leave, he knows that they are ready, and they know that they are ready. And I think he taking on the responsibility of raising another child, even begrudgingly, it still should count for something.
Now, Corie, I'll ask you the following question in just a moment. But Connor, what does Red Foreman have that you, from what you know and have heard of Aizawa, does not have? Why does Red deserve this more than Aizawa?
He, all of his love with his children and basically adopted child, is genuine and not mind control.
Okay. And Corie, why does Aizawa deserve this more than Red Foreman?
Just to clarify, Aizawa does not have mind control as a student he was working with.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Well, first of all, Aizawa has hair.
Very important.
Yes. Second of all, he basically did what Red did, but on a much grander scale. Instead of having actual children and then adopting one, he's adopted like 22.
Okay, I have thought about it, and between Red Foreman and Aizawa, I am going to have to give this to Aizawa.
Fuck you.
I'm surprised and happy.
I honestly am just as surprised, but I think you made a very good argument, Corie. I don't know who he is. I can't even put a picture or a face to the name. I have no idea what he looks like or anything. But just from the wholesomeness that you described him as, which better be accurate, because if I watch this show later and find out he's just as much of a hard ass as Red Foreman, I'm gonna come and find you.
He's teaching young heroes, so I'll let you make that decision.
All right. So the next matchup is Homer Simpson from, of course, The Simpsons against Mufasa from The Lion King. So, Connor, do you want to go first?
Not really, no.
Good fucking luck.
Yeah, it's the actually, I think two of probably the most well-known characters in, I think, all of these shows, probably.
Absolutely.
I will go first. The thing about Homer Simpson is everyone knows him as, a dumb, klutzy, head in the clouds kind of drunkard, but he always has the best interest of his family in mind. Even some of the classic shenanigans that he gets himself in is him trying to provide for his family or thinking about being a great father. And I think what really sets him apart in animated comedies is his undeniable love from his family, whereas people have compared him and Peter Griffin a lot. Peter Griffin does not love his kids whatsoever. They are just side characters to him. But with Homer Simpson, his relationship with his family is the reason he keeps going, is the reason he keeps working at his shitty job in the factory, and is the reason he gets himself into his shenanigans, which entertain us.
And Mufasa from The Lion King, he is, as we know, the king of the Pride Lands. And he has, his son Simba is the heir to the throne once he passes away. And Mufasa has a very, very... being voiced by James Earl Jones gives him a father-like presence that you just cannot imitate.
It is a soothing voice.
He does, and there's a scene when Simba goes against his own father's wishes and goes into the elephant graveyard where he and his friend Nala almost get killed by hyenas, and Mufasa comes in and drives him away, and the conversation that he has with Simba afterwards, Simba says, "I wish I could be like you." Something along, I'm paraphrasing. "I wish I could be like you. You're never scared of anything." And he says, "I was today," because the thought of losing his son is one of the biggest things that could hurt him. And Mufasa is very brave, but he tells Simba that bravery doesn't come from a lack of fear. It comes from overcoming that fear. And there's nothing that Mufasa would fear more than losing his son. And he would and did give his own life to save his son. And when he was betrayed by his brother Scar. So you can, and just keep in mind that Simba chokes his Homer Simpson chokes his kids, but,
I think I've got a good argument.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so, we get one, right? Like, every single character will have...
Yeah, I think so.
Well, a description and then what one has against the other.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty easy to be a good dad when you are the king and you are the biggest predator and the most feared animal in the kingdom. I think that it's not exactly hard to be a good dad when you have nothing in your way. But Homer Simpson, they're not exactly a rich family. Let's put it at that. They're not necessarily in poverty, but throughout the show they do struggle with money and time with each other. But even despite those odds, Homer Simpson finds a way to be a good dad and to put food on the table. He's gotten fired from his job before, and then he'll go and get multiple jobs just because he knows he's got to provide for his family, and so he doesn't have a kingdom to fall back on.
I only did say that Homer chokes his kids, but I do want to make a genuine argument that while Mufasa does have an entire kingdom to run, there is a lot of stress that comes with that. And he did say that despite all of those things, despite all of the power that he has, there is fear in him, and that is to lose his son or to have his son be in any danger. And to hear that from even me, 25 years old, I hear that scene where Mufasa says, in response to Simba asking, you're not scared of anything, and when Mufasa says, "I was today," that gets to me. That hurts my heart, and so I think that even though he is one of the most powerful animals in the kingdom, to have that fear of his son being hurt, that's what makes him the best dad.
All right, Corie, you've heard our arguments. What's your verdict?
As much as I love a tragic father figure, Homer Simpson was actually around for most of the show. Homer Simpson goes on.
All of the show, actually. Yes! Holy cow, I did not expect that.
Don't look at me like that, Johnny.
I'll remember this going forward. This was supposed to be an easy win. And
yeah, I know. That's what's so shocking about it.
I cannot.
Holy shit! Now I have to keep going with Homer.
Yeah, you do.
Figure it out.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. Okay. So next is Luke from Gilmore Girls and Marlin from Finding Nemo. So after that last round, we'll just see how it goes, Corie. Yeah, I'm the deciding factor now. So.
All right. So I'll go first with this one. And like Homer Simpson, Luke is in pretty much every episode of Gilmore Girls. Not only that, but without actually being married to Lorelai, he essentially raised Rory as his own. And then when he found out he had his own daughter, season 7's a mess, we don't talk about much, he also stepped up and started raising her, even though they had nothing in common. She was a little science nerd. He's like, I just want to run my diner and wear backwards baseball caps, dude. Like, that's all I want in my life. He may be grumpy, a little bit of a Red Foreman type. He may be like, no cell phones in the restaurant, but still, he's like, he genuinely cares. He looks out for Rory whenever she has a new boyfriend. He's the one who's saying, all right, step up, boy. Even though it was his own nephew, he was like, we're not playing around. And he was more of a father than Rory's own dad because Christopher is a terrible person.
Okay, and then Connor, do you have one for Marlin from Finding Nemo?
Marlin, he suffered through tragedy. At the beginning of the movie, we all know that he was just a regular dad, excited to have kids and have them explore the ocean. But then tragedy happened with a barracuda attack, common around these parts. And eventually he becomes so fearful that he's going to lose his only child that's left, that he becomes a little bit, he becomes a very strict parent. He's afraid of the ocean. But then his son gets kidnapped by divers, and he stops at nothing. He gets over his deep fear of the ocean to find his son. He goes halfway across the ocean and faces, every obstacle you could imagine in the ocean. Sharks, jellyfish, caverns, whatever that fish is with the light attached to its head.
Anglerfish.
Anglerfish. Oh, you are a nerd for knowing that. Wow. Okay. Props to you. Anglerfish. And he basically adopts Dory at this point, because now he's got this short-term memory loss fish to keep track of as well. And he does everything in his power to go and find his son, because even when he's in the mouth of a whale, he's trying to bust out of it, saying, I have to find my son. I have to tell him how old sea turtles are. And then when he does find his son, he has conquered his fear and allows him to be a little bit more free. And he tells him how old sea turtles can be. 150 and still young.
And then Corie, do you want to make an argument against Marlin, and then same for Connor?
So unlike Marlin, Luke encourages the children, the wards in his life, to go and explore, be who they want to be. He doesn't try and keep them chained down to Stars Hollow and say that they have to, live there their entire lives, be scared of everything. He encourages them to go out and find who they are, explore their passions. He doesn't hold them back like Marlin.
Okay, and Connor, do you have an argument against Luke?
In my opinion, I think that's not so much an argument against Marlin as it is against Luke himself, that shows little growth throughout the show if he's automatically that way. And I'm sure there's been plenty of growth there, but Marlin, I mean that just shows character growth. There was a reason he became a little bit overprotective, and that was because of the death of his wife and hundreds of his kids.
Okay, so I've made my decision, and the fact that Corie chose Homer over Mufasa definitely plays a big factor into my decision. So I will say that Marlin, one thing going for him is definitely that he had the biggest amount of growth and change over the course of his run, where it looks like Luke has had a lot, me knowing nothing about Luke from Gilmore Girls, it seems from what you've described has had a lot of consistent good fatherliness, even when things weren't exactly going well for him. So I would say that it would be a lot easier for a father to go across the world and rescue his son than it would be for a father to be a father to someone he has never known. So because of that, because of the consistency and the responsibility that Luke put on himself, I surprisingly and uncharacteristically of myself am going to put Luke above Marlin.
I also have to say that's quite shocking, because I really thought Marlin was a shoo-in for that.
I thought about it.
I thought after that Mufasa comment.
That definitely hurt you, Corie. But I will say that I think most good dads would fight for their son, but not a lot of men would become dads to somebody they wouldn't have to. And I think that's what
he kind of became a dad to Dory, and
I always saw them more as brother and sister than father and son.
It wasn't for no reason that he was overprotective. It was tragedy.
All right, so next is going to be Ned Stark against Kerchak. Ned Stark from Game of Thrones against Kerchak from Tarzan. So I'll go first. Ned Stark is the father figure, fatherhead of and hand to the king of in the Game of Thrones series. He is the father of the most important of his children, who are the most important, some of the most important characters in not just the story but in the entire world. Everybody knows about who these kids are because not because of their royalty, but because of who they become themselves. And they would not have become that if they were not inspired by their own father. Ned Stark is a good dad because he embraces the differences that he has in his children. He raised Sansa Stark to be who she wanted to be, which is a very ladylike and calm and gentle woman, but also strong when it counts, emotionally strong when it counts. Sansa has overcome some of the most emotionally crippling experiences that any person ever could. Meanwhile, Arya Stark, the youngest daughter, grew up with an older sister like Sansa and said, I don't want to go with all the girly stuff. I don't want to be, a queen or, somebody that's in dresses and dances. I want to be somebody that's tough, and I want to know how to be in battle. And she became basically a child assassin. And she was encouraged by her father, Ned Stark, to do what she wanted, to pursue her own goals. He also has he has sons, Jon and Robb Stark, who are also very distinctly different. Jon became a leader, and he got that from the inspiration from his father, Ned Stark. Robb became a very valiant fighter in the Game of Thrones series. So all of them were raised very differently from one another, but Ned knew who his children were, and it takes a lot to not just raise all of your kids the same, but to give them to raise them the way that he knows that they need to be raised, to push them forward with what they want and what they need in their lives. And I feel like Ned Stark did that. And unfortunately it cost him his head, but it did give him, give all of his, well, not all of his children, but most of his children a good, life to live after that. Sorry, that was so long.
So Kerjak is the gorilla version of Mufasa, who also happened to live a little longer. But he and Kala, his wife, they took in Tarzan, and even though Kerjak was still not exactly happy because he already lost his own child to a cheetah attack, he still allowed this child to become part of his family. He still looked after him, and even when he got into trouble with Turk and their elephant friend, and they caused all kinds of trouble. Even if we're bringing in Tarzan 2 and this whole thing, they're causing a ruckus all the time. Kerjak still managed to keep the family together, still kept the family safe, and still looked after Tarzan. Now you might be saying, okay, but he didn't treat Tarzan all that great growing up. Here's the thing. He taught him to be a gorilla, not to be a man. He taught him to be strong, to be innovative, use the tools around him. And then, when it finally came down to it, when Kerjak was on his last breath, he called him son. He called him a member and the leader of the family, and that is my argument.
Okay, Connor? Oh, I guess we can go against...
Yeah, you guys have one thing against the other. So what's your argument against Ned Stark?
Ned Stark, I really can't say anything bad about my boy Ned. He still didn't exactly treat Jon like his own child. And spoiler, if you haven't finished Game of Thrones, he definitely kept him as a separate part of the family. And as a father, taking in someone who wouldn't be your child, you at least think to tell your wife, hey, it's not really my kid. And, so that way Jon could experience the love and warmth that he needed in his life, growing up, something that made him very kind of callous and, well, no one loves me, that's why I'm going to go join the Brotherhood of the Night. And I don't know, I think Ned just made too many mistakes.
What's your argument against Kerchak?
I think Kerchak definitely had a long time of. Corie said that there was that Kerchak was raising Tarzan to be more of an ape than a man. But the way I saw it was that it took a long time for Kerchak to even want Tarzan. And I think if it wasn't for Nala, if this were an argument for Mother's Day on The Best Mom, I think Nala would be a shoo-in for the champion. But if it wasn't for her, I don't think Kerchak would have even taken Tarzan in. Whereas Ned Stark did take in Jon on his decision rather than Kerchak's reluctant decision to take in Tarzan. So there are some similarities, but I think that it was Ned Stark's decision to take in Jon, whereas Nala's decision to take in Tarzan.
That's actually my...
Or Kala's. Yeah. Kala, not... Is it Kala? Yeah.
It's Kala.
Kala, yeah, not Nala.
I think that was actually my line of thinking as well. He didn't really even accept him as his son until the last breath, which is why I think Ned Stark is going to win this one.
Woot!
Good.
I think
I'd be upset if you chose Kerchak.
Yeah, Kerchak. I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't a good father, but until his very last breath, he was a begrudging father.
Yeah. Okay. So the next one...
We're going to go on to the east.
Yeah, so the next, the other half of round 1 is going to be Chief Hakoda from Avatar: The Last Airbender and Joel from The Last of Us. So, who was Chief Hakoda?
That's me.
Okay, Connor, do you want to go ahead with that?
I will go ahead with that. Just a really great leader through and through. For the last 2 years of the 100-Year War, he decided to take upon himself to go and fight the good fight, and he still managed to be an excellent father, even though he was supposed to be a good soldier as well. What they kind of do in the show is at first they make Sokka and Katara. Sokka and Katara make the audience believe that he left because he wasn't a good father, and that he left because he was a soldier first and a father second. But that's not what was the case at all. Hakoda even said, like, I wasn't able to sleep because I missed you guys so much. And what I think is really great about the show is they really show, particularly with Sokka, a little bit with Katara, but particularly with Sokka, how much him as a father rubbed off on him. Like, they're both very creative in their wit, but also with their gadgets. And when Sokka finds Hakoda, he wastes no time to catch up with him and then help him. He helps him become a leader with the Water Tribe army as well, which eventually takes on, some of the other tribes as well. But he gives Sokka the responsibility because he knows that he raised Sokka well. He knows Sokka can become a great leader. And then they rode into battle together, father with his kids. And that's, I think that makes him a fantastic father.
Okay, and then mine is Joel from The Last of Us. And Joel was a father himself. And he, early in the game, his daughter died at the very first day.
Spoilers!
Spoiler
God!
alert. Minor spoiler. That was a minor spoiler for Last of Us, but I guess I'm not really going to reveal too much for the rest of the game. But I will say that Joel's daughter did die at the very beginning of the video game in the day 1 of the apocalypse. Fast forward many years, and Joel is also a bit of a Red Foreman type, very rough and grumbly and just kind of rah, 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 but he's still making it in the apocalypse. And he comes across Ellie. And she is basically a task for him right away. She's nothing more than just a transport mission. But it goes from two people, a reluctant father and daughter, or I guess man and girl relationship, to a pure father and daughter relationship. They start off hating each other, sassing each other, and not really wanting to be around each other, to learning that they need each other. And they not only, it's not so much of a father protecting his daughter, but also the daughter protecting her father figure. And they do a very good job of making it so they are equals, and they become a family. They become a team. And to see the two go through all of the emotional heartbreaks that they do, without giving really any spoilers, in the midst of an apocalypse, is the very definition of what a good father is. It's not always about biology. It's all about love. And there's undoubtedly a vast amount of love between Joel and Ellie.
All right, Connor, would you like to make your argument?
I think my argument is, I know so little about Joel, other than that, through and through, Chief Hakoda is a loving father, a caring father, from the get-go. And there was this moment I thought that was really, really great when Sokka had to, they were going to go attack the Fire Nation. Spoilers again, attack the Fire Nation during a solar eclipse. And Sokka was really nervous to give the speech, and then he kind of failed at it, giving the speech. He comes off stage, he's like, God, I'm never good. If I can't even give a speech, I'm not going to be able to fight this battle. And Chief Hakoda looks at him and is like, I mean, you got this far. I mean, who cares if you can't give a speech? You're a good fighter if you got this far, and we can do this together. And, there was never a moment where he doubted his kids, and I think that gives him a little bit of an edge over Joel.
I think that what gives Joel a little bit of an edge over Chief Hakoda is that while war is something that is terrifying and scary and takes a lot of guts to be a part of.
Don't worry, it's a Nickelodeon war. Nobody actually dies.
being a part of an apocalypse is every day is a war for every single person, a struggle to survive, not against the infected, but also against other humans who are just wanting to kill you. So I think that the stakes were a lot higher for Joel, and the reason to keep Ellie around was, while it may have seemed less likely or less necessary, he did it anyway because he learned to love her. And even if he didn't feel the need right away to keep her around, keep her alive, he did. And he did it long enough to eventually form this love and bond for her. And I think that shows not just what kind of father he is, but also what kind of man he is in a general sense. There's undoubtedly a lot of love that Hakoda has for his kids, but Joel unfortunately lost his only daughter. And when Ellie came into the picture later, he had no responsibility. And I think that's what really drives the difference between Joel and Hakoda.
All right, Corie, what do you think?
Connor stole Chief Hakoda from me, so
Ha!
that goes into this. And just spoiler alert, kind of, I know what happens to Joel later on.
Don't say anything.
Please don't. Yeah.
I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I know what happens. I am gonna actually have Hakoda move on.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh, bing bang boom.
All right. So Chief Hakoda moves on to the next round, and the next one is going to be Jack Pearson against Nigel Thornberry.
Oh gosh.
And the two of them are competing for a spot against Uncle Phil. So I will... this is a weird matchup, but Jack Pearson from The Last of Us against Nigel Thornberry from The Wild Thornberrys. So Jack Pearson is...
That's This Is Us.
Sorry, did I say Last of Us?
Yeah.
Sorry. Jack Pearson from This Is Us. And he is a pure father. He's a father of 3. He lost... I'll try to be briefer so we can speed it up. But Jack Pearson is from This Is Us, and he has 3 kids. He is a pure father. He adopted Randall as a baby the day that one of his own triplets passed away. He adopted Randall as the 3rd triplet, and he refers to them as the Big 3. And he unfortunately one night he died in a fire, and he went back in to save the family dog, and he after getting everybody else out, his wife, his 2 children that were there, his other son was at a friend's house at the time. After getting everybody out, he went back in for the family dog, and it was because of that he died at the hospital later from too much smoke inhalation. And he knew how much that his daughter cared about the dog, even though his main goal was just to get his children out. He risked his own life to save the family dog, and he would do anything to protect his daughter or his sons, and that alone has a big piece on the rest of the show with how the characters make decisions. What would Jack Pearson do? I can go a lot more into it, but I want to be brief, so that's it.
All right, Nigel Thornberry, voiced by the legend himself, Tim Curry. He wants his family to live life to the fullest. Not only does he have 2 very different daughters, he also adopted Donnie when they found him out in the jungle, and the very intelligent monkey Marvin. But he encourages his children to be independent, think for themselves, explore all these places that they're traveling, and he's just an excellent father who was so tired of being cooped up as a child that he does not want that for his own children.
All right, and going forward for this round, we're not going to have any arguments against the other, just so we can speed it up. So,
gosh, this is actually really, really tough because both are great fathers. I think with this, I have seen more growth as a character, more, vulnerability from Jack Pearson, so I'm going to have him move on. Although, this was really tough because both are just excellent fathers. This is not anything against Nigel Thornberry. It's just the actual character growth that a drama can allow as opposed to a comedy.
Okay, so now Jack Pearson is up against Uncle Phil for this round. So, Connor, do you want to explain Uncle Phil?
Yeah, Uncle Phil. Yeah, so for those of you who watched The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he's already got 3 kids of his own, but he brings in Will's character and he takes him under his wing. I think Uncle Phil does show a lot of growth, despite him being a very, very different person than Will. Will was kind of embracing the hip-hop culture that was kind of in its infant stages in 1989. It was still growing a little bit. Uncle Phil he's a rich, I think at the start he's a lawyer, and then he eventually becomes a judge in Los Angeles. And he wants he wants nothing but the absolute best for his kids. But he also knew the struggle growing up as a black man who wants to go into law. Will, actually, there was a moment towards the beginning of the show itself. He really, really likes Malcolm X, and he's just talking to Uncle Phil like, you don't know, you're rich, you don't understand the struggle that I was going through in Philadelphia. And he's like, no, I've heard the man speak, I've heard Malcolm X speak. I was at some of his rallies and stuff like that. I understand exactly what you're going through. And so as a character, he's gone from nothing to something, and he wants to bring Will from nothing to something.
Okay, and then Corie, I just explained Jack Pearson, so do you want to decide between Jack and Uncle Phil?
Just for the why did he leave scene in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is going to Uncle Phil.
Yes!
All right.
Every time I'm voting, Johnny hates me a little bit more.
Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse is the name of that episode.
All right, so the next one is going to be Stu Pickles from Rugrats and Sean Maguire from
Good Will Hunting.
Good Will Hunting.
I'll start off. So this is, another father figure, much like Uncle Phil. So he takes Will in for therapy, but they both connected on that they were beaten as children. Will had to save his mom from being beaten, so he sacrificed himself so his mom could get away. And Sean actually gives a shit. He's one of the very few people in Will's life to give a shit and actually desires to draw out his inner child and just say, it is not your fault. This is a lot of people go through this, and the reason you are the way you are is not your fault. And he doesn't only teach him for the sake of his job. He teaches him because he hasn't had no one there to help him. He's basically raised himself, and now he finds this opportunity to help him be raised as a normal child, and they actually connect, and they actually become basically a father-son figure. And the "it's not your fault" scene is a try not to cry challenge for me.
Stu Pickles' entire career is centered around his children. He is a children's toy inventor. He wants everything he can to make his children, his children's friends, his niece. He just wants to make them all happy. He takes them to Paris, to Raptar Land, and he just wants what's best for them. He seeks out to make his children happy and smile every day, and that is the basis of his career and his personal life mottos.
Stu Pickles is very wholesome and pure, but I'm going to have to give it to the more realistic Sean Maguire.
Oops. I didn't realize I was doing really, really well in this tournament.
All right, for the last one, it's going to be Bowser from Super Mario against Tenzin from A Legend of Korra.
This is going to be interesting.
So I'll go first. Bowser is the father of 8. That's right. You heard it right. 8 children. And while you can make the argument that he is a villain against Mario, he has always been fully supportive of his kids. Bowser Jr., named, of course, after himself, looks up to Bowser the most, but that doesn't mean that he treats his other kids any differently. He gives castles, full-on castles, to his other 7 children. Iggy, Lemmy, Larry, Morton, Roy, Ludwig, and Wendy. I think I named 7. And he gives them castles. He gives them their own homes when he doesn't need to do that. And they're not. He doesn't look at his children as parts of his army. He looks at them as his family. And honestly, what's more pure than that?
Well, Tenzin doesn't give his children castles because he doesn't need to keep them quarantined. He keeps his family together. He's raising 4 baby airbenders, one of them who is highly attuned to the spiritual world. Spoiler alerts, I guess. And not only is he raising those 4 rambunctious, wild airbender babies, he's also essentially raising Korra, who is hot-headed. She's wanting to live, the big city life in Republic City, and he's trying to get into her head saying, as the Avatar, you have to learn what it means to, one, be an airbender, but two, what it means to connect on a spiritual level and fulfill some of your duties. You're neglecting that. You can't just be a pro bender all the time. And as the series progresses and more traumatic things happens to Korra, he's the one that she seeks out. When she ended up betraying him in season 2, she went back to him and apologized and said, I should have never done that. And he, much like Uncle Iroh did for Zuko, welcomed her back with open arms and says, I'm not mad at you. I was just scared that you lost your way. And I mean, as the son of Aang, he learned those parenting techniques like that.
Okay, Connor, Bowser or Tenzin?
Just from the sheer depth of the character alone, it's going to have to be Tenzin. But we don't really get to see much about Bowser being a father at all. That's just not the main focus of the game. So if there was a deeper story with Bowser's children and him, there would actually be more of a battle.
Okay, so now we're going on to round 2. I'll give you guys like 15-second arguments. This first one is going to be Aizawa against Homer Simpson. So Corie, you wanted to start with the very briefest argument for Aizawa.
When one of his children were kidnapped and people were calling him a villain, he stood up for him and said, nah, he's just good at what he does.
Okay.
Homer Simpson has been presented with good looks when he gets hair and loses weight, and money and all of these temptations to be driven away from his family. But every single time, he's just like, this is not what I need. I need my family. This is not what's going to make me happy. It's the health and well-being of my family that makes me happy.
As much as I want to go into this with an unbiased decision, I have to say that the reluctant father or not reluctant father, but the...
being a father figure as opposed to an actual
father. Yes, father figure, love over biology argument always wins for me, and so I'm going to have to give it to Aizawa, which I got to say is a surprise just as much to me as it probably is to both of you.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So next is going to be Luke from Gilmore Girls against Ned Stark. So Corie, you want to take it away? Very brief.
Again, Luke, he is consistent. He's taking on kids who are not his own, and he even goes as far to also just take care of his sister's kid because she needs help, and he's not only a good father, but a good brother.
Ned Stark lives in a world where things are a lot more at stake than they are in the realistic world from Gilmore Girls, and being a good dad to all of his kids, some of which are his own, some of which are not, and treating them all the way that they need to be treated in a way to grow, shows exactly the kind of father that he is. And he did literally die for his kids.
I'm going to go with Ned Stark, but Luke is a great father figure. Ned Stark, it's probably just tougher to live in that world with your kids than it is Luke's restaurant.
I have no hard feelings there.
The next one is Chief Hakoda against Uncle Phil. So, Connor, you want to take it away?
Those are both my characters.
Oh, they are. Yeah. So,
so you and I need to decide, Johnny.
Yeah. So, Connor, do you want to give a brief argument for both of them? Just a very brief.
For Chief Hakoda, I guess my argument would be it'd be very similar with Ned Stark. He does have his own biological kids, but then he also takes on the rest of the gang, and he goes to battle with them and teaches what it's like not only to be good soldiers, but he teaches his kids that, being a good person, a morally solid person is truly what's more important. And then with Uncle Phil, I think it goes without saying he brings Will into his family as if he were his own, and only the well-being of his family is that's the most important thing for him.
For me, Corie, I think that Uncle Phil takes the lead just a little bit because even though Chief Hakoda does a lot, and there was a lot of times when he wanted to be there, and I'm no points against him, but I think Uncle Phil being there when for Will, I think it puts him ahead. What do you think?
As much as I would love to see Hakoda and Tenzin go head to head, I'm also going to have to go with Uncle Phil.
All right, Uncle Phil it is. All right, so next is going to be Sean McGuire from Good Will Hunting against Tenzin. So Connor, you want to take it away? Very brief.
It's got to be really, really tough when the kid that you're trying to raise is just so much against you and even trying to make you snap at the beginning, where he's even making fun of his wife's death right in front of him just to get away from this all. Not necessarily personal against Sean McGuire, but making it personal to get away from him. But then Sean just keeps going at him because he knows this is important and I can really, really succeed with this kid because I know exactly what makes him tick, because I feel feel a deep connection with him on a spiritual level because we both went through very similar things.
Okay. And Corie, Tenzin?
All right, so Tenzin, again, he has a child who is much more in tune with the spiritual world than he is, and he eventually gets over that jealousy very quickly. And as more traumatic things happen to Cora, such as when she gets poisoned, he's the one who's by her side saying, she can fight this, she can do it, you all are the ones underestimating her. He's the one who helps ease that burden. And not only that, but he takes what Aang did wrong with him and his siblings and fixes it and prevents those things from happening with his own children.
Okay, I am going to give this to Tenzin.
Motherfucker.
Okay, quarterfinals. It's going to be Aizawa against Ned Stark. So I think we've made enough arguments against all of them that we can wait until the final one to make another brief argument. So Connor, Aizawa against Ned Stark.
This is both really tough because they both have very difficult situations they're going through, and they have kids and adopted kids, and I don't know their characters very, very well. It's really tough because they both make great arguments, and I only know them based on these arguments. There's going to be bias in this
Sure.
choice, and that's only because I'm more familiar with the world of Game of Thrones, so I'm going to go with Ned Stark, but that's just because I know not a thing about the show. Sorry, Corie.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it's all good. You just need to educate yourself.
That's true.
And then the other round is Uncle Phil against Tenzin. And this is really tough. Uncle Phil was a reluctant father, somebody that didn't need to be a father to Will, and Tenzin was the son of Aang the Avatar. So, but yet he, even living under the shadow of his father, I can understand how it would be hard to be a good father himself. Both of them have had a lot of growth from what I've seen. I haven't watched Korra, but I know enough about Tenzin to know exactly what his character is like. And Uncle Phil, I did love that show, and I love seeing Uncle Phil grow as a father himself. I will have to give this to... Oh my goodness, this is very tough. I'm getting torn. I'm going to say I want to give this to Tenzin.
Yes!
Surprisingly, I know a lot of me wants to go for Uncle Phil, but I think the fact that Tenzin is Aang's son and then also becomes a good father himself, despite not having, I don't know how Aang was as a father, but that was, I think that Yep, that's what Tenzin is.
Are you, Corie? Are you familiar with the Game of Thrones world?
I have seen all of Game of Thrones.
Are you very familiar with Legend of Korra?
Not Legend of Korra, but Last Airbender. Yeah.
All right, so I guess I'll give you guys 15 seconds on why the other person shouldn't win. Unless you're not too familiar, we can go with why your character should win.
Yeah, Corie, you want to go first against Ned Stark, because I know a little bit less about yours.
Yeah. So Ned, again, he just made so many parenting mistakes, particularly with Jon Snow. He also kind of encouraged Robb to be a little bit of a megalomaniac, which is inevitably why he ended up dying at the Red Wedding. Spoiler alert, I guess. And I don't know, his family, while they are all well known, he's the one who ended up putting them in danger.
And then Tenzin, like I said before, I think that there's a lot about Tenzin. He lived in the shadow of Aang, so there was a lot that he had to live up to. So I don't know exactly how Aang was as a father, but seeing that and may have been a little bit disheartening for him to grow as a person himself. But despite that, he did become a very, very good father figure. But I still think that there was some kind of... I just realized I'm fighting for Tenzin. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to lose here.
Make my argument for me.
Sorry. So Ned Stark, he did have a lot of kids of his own and some that weren't his own, and I think that there was a lot more stress, like I said before, and I think that in the world of Korra, from what I understand, while the world may not be fully at peace, it definitely is more so than it was in The Last Airbender, and so I think that Tenzin had a bit of an easier upbringing and a lot less at stake than Ned Stark did, where everybody could die no matter who you are, how big or not big you are. And so I think that because Ned Stark had so much at stake, and even though they may on paper be, I think, equally good fathers, Ned Stark had a lot more stress to deal with than I would imagine Tenzin did, and I think that's what makes him that much better of a father than Tenzin.
So this is going to be tough because this is for the winner. And
Yes, you decide the winner, Connor.
I have not seen Game of Thrones. I've seen some episodes here and there of Game of Thrones, but in no particular order. And I've never seen The Legend of Korra. I have seen Avatar: The Last Airbender, but not The Legend of Korra. And so this is going to be really, really tough. I think anyone who's compared to being the Uncle Iroh of their show should probably be the winner. So I'm going to go with Tenzin.
Wow.
But
buddy.
none of these decisions were easy because these are all fantastic fathers and father figures.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think we're all winners because we get to watch all these awesome shows. So everyone gets a participation trophy.
Yes.
Oh, yay.
Yeah. So Corie, I don't appreciate you coming in and winning.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just
I
realized
was not expecting it.
nobody chose Uncle Iroh as their father figure.
I
Which
specifically requested that we did not put Uncle Iroh.
Yes.
okay, because he's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that is way too OP. Nuh-uh.
I was
when
actually
we
going to
did-
ask if God could be in this.
when we did this for Nurmageddon, Goofy was the winner. I believe Goofy was the winner. So Goofy was also not able to be a part of this.
Yeah, sure. So yeah. So if you guys think the correct winner was chosen, please let us know. If you guys have other like fathers and father figures that should have been in this list, please let us know in the comments below. And what do you think of the outcome of this? So Corie, in an effort to make sure that you get to work on time, we have about 5 more minutes to get through recommendations and then get you on your way. So I recommended Bob Dylan's Bringing It All Back Home album for everyone to listen to and have a review. Yeah, he is my favorite artist, but I don't want you guys to go easy. If you liked it, fantastic. If not, let me know. And then it is both Johnny's and Corey's turn today. So we'll start off with the review. What did you guys think?
I wanted to like it. I so badly did, and it reminded me of you, so that's why. But it's just not my vibe. It's not my genre that I particularly care for.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm
that's
taking
why
this
I wasn't
personally,
liking it.
just to let you know. No, not at all. Not. I understand. I go out of my way to not recommend Bob Dylan.
I said exactly the same thing to Connor when I was listening to it, actually, is that I wanted to like it, but it just, I said I wasn't vibing with it. It just wasn't something that was for me. And that hurt a lot for me because I want to like it a lot. I want to love it like you do, or at least appreciate it. And I do appreciate it, but it's hard for me to really enjoy. So I guess I want to give it 5 of Maggie's Farms out of 10.
I appreciate that you remember the track titles.
I remembered that specifically because there's a character in Walking Dead named Maggie whose father owns a farm.
And I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 Gardens of Eden.
Appreciate that you also remember the track titles. Yeah, so technically it is Johnny's turn, but since Corie is our guest, we like to let our guests have recommendations because it helps the audience get to know them a little bit. So Corie, what do you got for us?
I'm having you guys listen/watch Six the Musical and the follow-up thing to it, Mega 6, because that's not included in it. You can listen to the soundtrack on Spotify. When you do that, you need to watch it, like listen to it in show order, because it goes through each of Henry VIII's 6 wives and their stories. And if you don't, it can kind of get jumbled. But yeah, there's also a video that if you guys want to check that out, it goes a little more in depth. But that's my recommendation.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it.
And it's done in the style of a concert, not your traditional musical.
Ooh.
I appreciate that as well. I mean, anytime you recommend a musical, I usually look forward to it because almost all of the musicals you've recommended have been tugging at the heartstrings, particularly with Dear Evan Hansen.
Oh, yeah, there's one song in here that if you do not cry, there's probably something wrong with you.
What?
Actually, there's two.
Did you
Jane
recommend
Seymour and Kate Howard.
Never
are
mind, you
deciding
didn't recommend
figures.
Dear Evan. Wait, I thought, I swear to God, Corie recommended Dear Evan Hansen.
That was me. Nope.
There's no way.
We both like Dear Evan Hansen.
We both love it, and we bonded over our love of it, but it was my recommendation.
Was it really?
It was, yeah.
I
Rebecca
had you listen to
showed
like
it to me.
Legally Blonde and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was mine.
But yeah, so Six the Musical.
Dear God.
Mega 6.
Let me take that part out. I really like when you recommend musicals because then I learn about musicals.
That's fair.
But yeah,
I know
this is
so few
also-
of them.
This is also not Broadway, is West End, which is like English version of Broadway. So they all have English accents.
Oh, fun. I love me some an English accent. It's sexy. I love a good English man.
I also did a dance class with one of these ladies. She hosts dance classes online, and I got to take one of them. So.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So, yep, that's going to conclude it for episode 20 of Rocket Talk. Thank you guys for sticking with us for 20 long episodes and a couple of minis as well. Corie, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's
Thank
great.
you for having me.
Yeah, it's great reuniting the team. Yeah, and so I know you
Heart.
Sunset Heart Hand. Yeah, I know you got to get to work, so we'll wrap it up here. You guys, please like, subscribe, share us. You can find us on, not only on YouTube, you can find us on Spotify and Anchor. Please listen to us on Anchor because we get like half pennies for listens and stuff like that. So, yeah, we will see you guys next time.